Hi, in this session, we will discuss SAP UI Fiori data syllabus. My name is LVN Sai Kumar Tunugunta, having 5 years of experience in SAP ABAP and ABAP on HANA Fiori data services. So this is my mobile number and email ID. In future reference purpose, you can reach out to me. In this session, we will discuss entire syllabus. The mainly our course title like SAP UI and SAP Fiori, SAP OData, and SAP CDS views, and SAP Fiori Elements UI annotations. We will cover HTML, CSS scripting, and XML. Now, next we will discuss SAP BAS like Business Application Studio. Now, next we will discuss SAP Web ID tools like Eclipse tools. Now, next we will discuss SAP Network Gateway as for HANA, SAP ECC servers. We know how we are going to use the servers. So the course duration is 90 hours, like 60 sessions. We will provide the online server for 6 months. Mainly our orientation scenario like job, real-time scenarios, and spoon feeding. We will provide class notes and class diagrams every day. Now, next, we will provide the complete reference PDF and certification materials, real-time documentation, and resume preparation, and 500 interview questions we will provide. Okay. Initially, we will discuss introduction. In introduction, we will cover SAP UI5 and what is the SAP Fiori and what data services CDS views. Now, next we will discuss difference between the SAP UI Fiori and Web Pro, SAP ABAP and ABAP apps. Before going to start this course, we need to know some of the basics like SE11, T code, like ABAP data dictionary. Now, next we need to know SE37 like function builder. Now, next we need to know BAPI, RFC, basic concepts in SAP ABAP level. Now, we need to know object-oriented principles like class builder, KC24, how we are going to use. In this session, mainly we will cover SAP S/4HANA CDS views, Fiori elements plus UI annotations. So, initially, how we are going to install, set up Eclipse tools with ADT tools, ABAP development toolkit plugins. Now, next we will discuss installation, setup, SAP Web ID tools. Now, next we are going to explain how to install, setup SAP Business Application Studio. Now, next we will discuss, install, and set up SAP Cloud Connectors. This is one of the most trending concept, cloud connectors. Okay. Yeah. Now, next we will discuss creating CDS views. In the creating CDS views, we will explain how to create CDS views with the joins, like inner joins, left outer joins. Now, next we will discuss create CDS view with association, cardinality, and parameters. Now, next we will discuss create CDS views with built-in functions and expressions operations. Now, next we will discuss create CDS views with help values and vertical elements. Now, next we will cover create CDS views with UI annotations. Now, next we will show you how to generate surface artifacts from the CDS views. Now, next we will show you generate OData services from CDS views. In SAP Fiori element level, we'll cover SAP Fiori list report elements, SAP Fiori overview pages elements, and SAP Fiori analytical page elements. Now, Next, developing SAP Fiori list report element app via CDS views like a filter select options, search help, grouping, sorting. We will show you at the real-time scenario in future sessions. Now, next, we will discuss facts, how to create a field group, line items in a level like code queue operations, create, read, update, delete operations. Now, next, we will discuss adding UI annotations in SAP Fiori list report element app level. Now, next we will discuss developing SAP Fiori overview page elements apps via CDS views like list cards, table cards, analytical cards. In analytical cards, we will discuss columns, lines, donuts, waterfalls, and as well as adding some of the UI annotations based on our requirement in a future reference session. Now, next we will discuss developing SAP Fiori analytical list page elements by using CDS views like KPI cards, visual filters, charts, table, adding new annotations. Okay. Now, next standard app enhancement. Already existing SAP standard apps, how we are going to extension. There is side by side extension, how we are going to add UI adaptations in a browser level. Now, next we will discuss how we are going to enhance in SAP UI5 visual editors. One of the most important concept SAP data, web app services and gateway service builder. In a gateway service builder, we will discuss initially architecture overview and usages, OData advantages. Now next we will discuss OData format in JSON and XML formats, how the structure in OData services. Now next we will discuss services documents, services meta documents. In OData SAP solutions, we have a EDM data types and SAP Network Gateway Services Builder by using SCGW code. So basically in OData model, we have a entity types, entity sets, and properties, navigation properties, and association reference constructors, principal entities, deep entities. So don't worry, we will explain one by one in a future session in on-screen real-time examples. Next, we will cover association set like a principal entity set, dependent entity set. Now, next, we will discuss cardinality and mapping. Now, next, we will explain runtime artifacts. So like model provide base and mode provide extension and data provider base. Now next we will explain data provider extension. Now next we will explain service maintenance like registration, hub systems and maintenance, error logs, gateway clients. Now next we will explain HTTP status codes and common messages, common errors. Now next we will cover how to debug OData web services in a real-time scenario. Now next without mapping OData services like BAPI with mapping, BAPI without mapping, we will explain one by one. Now next service URL parameters, like once we will implement our SAP OData services, we need to check the URL level. So how we are going to use filters and projections. Now next we will cover how to do sorting and counting. Now next we will cover client side paging. Now next we will cover inlining and metadata. So don't worry, we will show you in a real time sessions in the future. Now next we will cover formatting, like a format with XML JSON format. Basically in OData services code queue operations like create entity. Now next we will explain delete entity, and now we will explain update entity. Now next we will cover get entity with read statement. Now next we will cover get entity set. Now next we will cover update stream. Now next we will cover get stream. Now next we will cover execute action. Now next we will cover get expanded entity set. Now next we will cover create deep entity. There is some batch techniques for execution multiple methods in a single request. So now next we will cover function imports in OData services like function, single function imports, multiple function imports. Now next we will cover file handling in OData services like file uploading, file downloading, exporting data to Excel sheets. Now next we will discuss insert header plus item using the create deep entity method. Now next we are going to fetch data like header plus item using get expanded entity method. Now next we will cover configuration and maintenance gateway, SPRO related configuration, SICF related configuration. Don't worry, we will show you on screen. Now next we are going to sending the custom messages to front-end app like UI Fiori. In SAP UI or Fiori plus Fiori like development enhancement on SAP Web IDs on SAP Boss. Initially, we will discuss installation of tools like installation of SAP Web ID tools, SAP business application tools, and how we are going to install local setup. And now next we will discuss destination setup for remote backend system. For an example, we have a SAP ECC system in backend, but we have a front end like a Fury. How we are going to configure for backend to front end, we will show you step by step and configuration. Now next we will explain HANA cloud setup, how we are going to configure the backend system to front end system. Now we are going to set up destination remote backend system, and as well as we are going to provide documentation toolkit and API reference help links. Now next we will explain the architecture of the scenarios. Now next we will show you the configurations. There is different types of views like XML views, JavaScript views, JSON views, and HTML views. We will discuss one by one when requirement came, you know, future reference sessions. Now next we will show you SAP Fiori like app using templates like SAP Fiori master detail template like split app templates. And now next we will show you SAP Fiori full screen templates, and as well as how we are going to implement those screen templates. Now next we will explain types of Fiori apps like transactional Fiori apps, analytical Fiori apps, fact sheet Fiori apps. I will show you how to create these types of Fiori apps. There is different files using when we are going to handle the Fiori apps like views.xml, controller.json, components.json, manifests.json, dot properties, dot css, dot html, dot fragments, dot formatter, dot js files. These files we are going to use when we are going to implement the Fiori apps. We will show you when we are going to use this particular files in a future reference sessions. There is various types of libraries and packages like SAPM and SAP UI commons, SAP UI tables, SAP UI layouts packages, SAP UI layout dot forms, and SAP dot UI dot unifield. And now next we are going to discuss SAP UI core libraries. Now next we will discuss SAP dot UI dot model. Now, next we will cover SAP Suite UI microcharts and SAP dot is in a screen element classes like tags. We discuss properties, aggregations, events, and methods. Don't worry, we will explain one by one in future reference sessions in a on-screen level explanation. Now next we will cover developing custom Fury like apps using SAPM like label, text, input, text area. Now next we will explain how to create a link how to use that particular link in the Fury app level. Now next we will cover tool header, images, image mapping, breadcrumb and button, toggle button, switch panels and splitter, checkboxes, radio buttons, select, cursors, pages, HTML, input list items, formatted text, progressing indicator, slide range sliders, and rating indicator, data picker, data time input picker, and data range selections, filter bars and search fields, standard tiles and slide tiles, and mask input rules, steps input menus, navigation list and side navigation pages, semantic pages, message boxes and messages, message toasted, message strips, icon tab bars and icon tab filters, navigation container wizards and wizard strips. These things we will cover next couple of sessions, each and every keyword, how we are going to use the keyword, where we are going to use the keyword, and we will explain the syntaxes. We will run on screen in front of your session. Now, next we will cover layouts. There is different types of layouts like virtual layouts. Next we will cover horizontal layers, grid layout, responsive flow layouts. Now next we are going to discuss responsive grid layout and horizontal box or vertical box and flex boxes we will cover. There is different types of models like OData models, JSON models, RESON models, and XML model. We will discuss one by one in our future session. The types of buildings like one-way building, two-way building. Now next we will cover one-time binding. Now next we will cover data binding. Now next we will cover aggregation binding. Now next we will cover model binding. Okay, there is some value selectors with static values like radio button groups, select, combo boxes, multi inputs, multi combo boxes, tokens, tokenizers. Here, value selectors with backend values via OData services. We already created OData services in SAP level, but the same SAP OData services using the front end Fury. That time, how we are going to use the radio button groups and how we are going to use the select query. And now next we will cover combo boxes, multiple inputs, multiple combo boxes, tokens, and tokenizers from using simple forms. Now, next we will cover date and time format converted between the word data and front end Fury. Now, next we will cover list screen elements with backend values via word data services with objective list items. Now next we will discuss with standard list items. Now next we will cover with formatter functions. Now next we will discuss table complex screen elements with backend records SAP.m via our data services like a table with object number. Now next we will cover table with object identifiers. Now next we will cover table with object status. Now next we will cover table with the numeric content. The table with the various screens element like a text, input, slider, rating, check, progress, images. These things are how we are going to inbuilt in a table level. Now next we will cover table with formatter function. Now next we will cover how we are going to implement dynamic table creation based on OData services metadata. Now next we will discuss standard tiles with backend records via OData services in microcharts with backend values via OData services like area microcharts and bullet microcharts and comparison microcharts, delta microcharts, Harvey Bell microcharts, and radial microcharts. We will discuss one by one and we will show you in real time scenarios with syntaxes. Now next we will discuss microcharts with formatter functions in a like with backend values or data services like bar charts, line charts, column charts, waterfall charts. There is mock data techniques we will discuss in the future session. Now next we will show you initialization I18N resource model dot property. Now, next we will discuss one of the most important concept, MVC architecture, model view control architecture. Now, next we will cover code queue operation by consuming OData services, like create, read, update, delete queries operation by using consuming OData. Now, next we will cover OData ABAP services. Now, next we will cover OData HANA services. Now, next we will discuss OData extension services. Now, next we will cover how to consuming the multiple OData services into Fiori objects. Now, next we will cover call functions methods to trigger function importing to the OData services. How to fetch the header data, item data via OData services in front-end apps. Now, next we will cover how to insert header and item via OData services in front-end app level. Now, next we will discuss how to add the rows, how to delete the rows on table. Now, next we will discuss format of functions. Now, next we are going to implement the codes in a views controller techniques with MVC pattern. Now, next we will cover routing techniques in the routings, targeting navigation between the views. Now, next we will cover routing navigation with the data transfer one system to another system. Now next we will discuss data transfer between the views. Now next we will cover fragment techniques, front-end validations, dialog boxes, and now next we will show you the nested views subviews in techniques in general functionality like capturing values, assigning values to the screen element level. Now next we will show you how to enable disable screen elements and visible invisible screen elements. Now next we will show you capturing the selected single multiple records from the table or list or multiple combo boxes. Layout editor for XML views. Now next we will cover file handling like file uploading, file downloading. This is the one of the most important concept. It's a default concept. If you know the syntaxes, we can handle any type of uploads and downloads. Here we are going to cover file uploaded via our data services, file downloaded via our data services, file review via our data services, fetching and export data to Excel sheet. Now next we will cover triggering email with status of content. Now next we will cover import and export of Fiori apps. Now next we are going to deploy our SAP UI Fiori apps to SAP UI ABAP repository in a real-time scenario. For an example, we implemented in locally, but we need to deploy in a live servers in integration of apps into SAP Fiori Launchpad, like integration of SAP UI5 apps. And now next we will cover integration SAP Fiori apps. Now next we will cover integration SAP Web and Pro apps. SAP Fiori Launchpad configuration like Launchpad instant roles, semantic objects, catalogs, tiles, targeting mappings, groups, PFCG rules. Because for a security reasons, we are going to do some configuration based on the role. In SAP Fiori mobile client level, we are going to extension projects and extension in SAP Fiori. For an example, someone has been already implemented some of the projects. We are going to extend that particular Fiori. So how we are going to do, we will show you. Now next we will cover enhancement under Fiori standard apps in real-time apps like approve purchase order Fiori app, managing product Fiori apps, shopping cart Fiori apps, etc. and etc. These are like a standard Fury apps, but based on the client requirement, we are going to enhance that particular standard Fury apps. We will show you in the next couple of sessions. Now, next we will show you Fury Launchpad login screen changes like a background, logo, position. Now, next SAP theme design tools. In real-time project documentation, we will forward. Don't worry, in SAP UI Fury, Fury like app or data in real-time documents, like in real-time functionality and technical documents, and we will provide some of the support project tickets, examples, and common issues, errors. Now, complete materials, frequently asked questions, SAP UI5, Fiori, Fiori like what data, etc. Now, next we will cover resume preparation. XML, we will provide the basic XML syntaxes like extensible markup languages. What is XML? Basic XML syntaxes, XML elements or classes, XML attributes, properties, XML namespaces, and XML parser. And now next we will cover XML DOM and XML schemas like a basic understanding purpose. Now next we will cover HTML5 hypertext markup languages. Here we are going to create how we are going to create a web pages and HTML page structure. What is the formatting tags and forms and input tags, forms and image tags, and we will cover audio video tags, and we will cover link and list pages. Now next we will cover table tags and style attributes. Now next we will cover ordered list and unordered list. Now next we will show you HTTP status messages. Here there is a CSS like cascading style sheets, like designing purpose, look and feel good purpose. We are going to use CSS. There is a CSS properties. We will cover types of style sheets like internal and external inlines. Now next we will cover CSS commands, and we will show you box model, padding, bordering, margins. Now next we will explain classes, div and span. Now next we will cover working with colors, background images. Now next we will show you IDs, child selectors, and pseudo classes. Now next we will explain the styling links and styling list. Now next we will cover rounded corners and linear gradients and float and clear. Scripting, like Java scripting, most of the times we use. So here we are going to explain the statements and comments, and how we are going to handle the finding errors and resolve the errors. Now next we will cover the variables and scope of variables data types. Now next we will explain the operators and constants. Now next we will cover functions with parameters. Now next we will cover the statements if, else, nested if, complex conditions, switch case statements, and condition terminal operations, as well as we will explain for loop, while loop, how it is going to be work. Now next we will cover the string and string methods, and now next we will cover arrays, array method. Now next we will show you how we are going to use objects and property methods. Now next we will cover the data class and data methods and time methods, regular expressions. In a future reference sessions, we will cover one by one on screen um, typing in front of you, and we will execute and we will show you the output. Okay. Generally, most of the trainers are doing preparing the PPTs and explain and close the session. But in our scenario, we will explain. After that, we will implement it and we will explain and again, and we will execute on screen. Yeah, thank you. If you want to more updates, please reach out to us. Just click on the appointment book and we can fill this particular details and we can submit. We will reach out to you. Yeah, thank you.